Thingiverse is a great place to find existing models to print. It's a nice community of people who upload their different projects and give each other feedback. So you can see comments that people have given each other, and under makes, you can see pictures of successful makes. People will also take them and add and change them and remix them, which is cool. So we're going to go ahead and download the files here. Thingiverse is owned by Makerbot, so you only need the login once, which is nice. So I'm going to save that to my computer and go ahead and right click. Oops, it gives me that warning. Extract all. And we're going to unzip the folder. We don't want to work with the zipped folder, it won't read correctly. I'll delete that. And so now I've got a folder with the 3D file, images, preview images, and the license of how I can use this. Do be aware that we're not getting this. We're going to get something that looks a lot more like this in the printer unless you print it in separate pieces like this person did. It looks like they printed different pieces and then put them together, different colors. So I'm going to hop over here to cloudprint.makerbot.com. Again, it's the same sign-in. And instead of hooking up a printer, I'm going to go ahead and do my print preparation here. You can see I was already messing with the model here. I'm going to go ahead and trash that. All you have to do is find it here, or you can drag it into here and it will upload. So it's going to import that file and then we're going to prepare it for printing. So the file that we get off of Thingiverse isn't prepared to talk to the printer. It is a 3D model file, and we are creating a file that tells the printer how to move to extrude the material. Okay, it is super teeny tiny, so we are going to need to resize this. That would create, it wouldn't even be able to make that much detail at that size. So this is the size of the bed. I do need to check every time that I'm in the correct printer. We have some different printers, so make sure that you know which printer you're going to use and which one you need to select, because that does change things. We are going to be using the smart extruders, so that'll be consistent. But this is the size of the print bed. So we don't want to put things right on the edge, but we do want things bigger than that. So we have right now rotate, move, and scale. So X is red, it's left and right in this orientation. Y is back and forward, and then Z is up and down. You can center things on the build plates. You can smart orient them, which rotates them to the optimal position. You can face the build plate, which is where you choose the face of this, and then it would go on to sticking on the build plate, because you want your build to be sticking onto the build plate. It needs to be touching the build plate in order to print, or else it'll be printing in the air. So let's go ahead and scale this up. We are going to need a lot more than that. So let's try 1,000, and still kind of small. So let's go to 2,000. That's better. We're seeing some of the detail of the model, the roughness, so that's fine. You can place it anywhere on the build plate. I just don't overhang it and don't put it right on the edge. And then you can print multiple versions of these things at once if you want. I would do a test and then print your multiples just so that you know it works. And again, you want to make sure that this is sitting on the build plate. So, you know, if you weren't sure, smart orient this bottom bit to the build plate. Looks like it froze. There we go. Oh, I did smart orient. Sorry, meant to put the butt of it on the on the build plate here. So smart orient, you can see that it's thinking here. It's basically going to rotate your object in the optimal printing direction. So even though it won't sit like this, it thinks that it'd be easier to print like this, One thing I'll say is we are going to need supports for these pieces that are sticking out because they're at an angle it can't print. And I would personally rather have my support markings underneath. So I'm just going to go ahead and rotate it back to sit on the floor. And then if we want this to be on the ground, and we'll center it up. Okay, so like I was saying, we're going to need some supports here. Balance is pretty much what you're going to stick in. Draft is, for speed, but it's not necessarily going to get you the best product. And again, same thing. Min fill, it's going to break really easily because it's not going to have the same amount of internal structure. So the outside shell will always be solid, but there's a honeycomb structure inside that keeps it stable. And you can see that would be under the infill here. There you can change the amount of infill, and you can change the pattern of the infill. The thing that we're going to be looking for is supports. So we want breakaway supports. So it will print these supports while it's printing the object. And the importance of this is it can't print this or this in midair, right? So if it comes over here and it tries to print that, the filament's just going to fall with gravity. So it's going to build scaffolding so that it can print these things that are sticking out. Okay, so it's not going to be the body that's the issue. It's going to be these points that are sticking out. You also have choices about the base. I'm going to go ahead and give it a raft to sit on for it to build up on. And then again, you can explore these different settings. You can get into all this. But the big key is to have breakaway supports on for where it's needed, and then the raft is optional. So let's go ahead and print preview, and it's go ahead and slicing it up into layers and figuring out how the machine is going to move to extrude the plastic in order to get this model. So you see now that there are layers, and it's going to give us a preview. While it will print in the same material and it'll all just be one color, it's showing us that the gray is the support material, and we'll be popping that off when it's done. The raft is this base here, so that is also meant to come off later at the end. And you hope these are called breakaways in that you can just pop them off, but sometimes you have to get your knife out and clean them up. You can move to layer, and you can actually go through the different layers, and it'll show you how it's going to print, which is pretty neat. Reminds me of an MRI. So you can kind of preview how it's going to move. It's going to tell you how long it thinks it's going to take to print. You can see different settings. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to export, and we're going to get a Makerbot file. So you need a .makerbot file in order to print on the 3D printer. So this is your object file or your STL. There's lots of different 3D model files, but to print on a Makerbot, you need the Makerbot file with the correct printer selected. Then we're going to put this on a jump drive, flash drive, right, and move it to the printer and print off of that flash drive.